For the benefit of everyone on the planet, I believe that we should be pushing for joint ventures and intellectual property sharing more, not less. Why? One of the main complaints of the United States at the moment, at least on the right, is that there is a trade deficit between the United States and other countries. However, what this argument misses is that this was a product of the neoliberal position that the United States has had since Ronald Reagan in the 1980s. Even though neoliberalism pushed for the idea of the free market, this ideology ignored the fact that money is power. If I am a company or a country with more money, I therefore have more resources to do marketing and to invest in R&D. This is one reason why the Chinese government in the 1980s pushed for joint ventures and intellectual property sharing. They looked back at earlier thinkers from the early 20th century, Sun Yat-sen, for example, who was not just the father of modern China, but is seen as the father of modern Taiwan. In Three Principles of the People, he said that even though military power is one form of other countries imposing themselves on others, we need to be wary of economic power. As I said, when powerful companies, powerful countries go to other countries that have less resources, they are in the better position. So therefore, the argument that the United States has been taken advantage of over the past 40 years is somewhat flawed. But now that Chinese companies are going abroad and they are going to places like Europe, North America, Africa, South America, countries like the United States are facing the same problem that China faced in the 1980s. They don't want electric vehicle companies to come over out of fear that they will be influenced by the Chinese government. It's the same thing that China feared in the 1980s. So therefore, what the United States should do is exactly what Europe did a few months ago by saying that you are welcome to come here, but you need to form joint ventures with our companies and you need to share your intellectual property with us. This way, Chinese companies can benefit from access to new markets and possibly even the labor of those countries, but also the companies in those foreign countries can also still survive, and those countries gain access to the intellectual property and they get some of the money from what is produced in their own country, therefore respecting the sovereignty of those countries. Chinese companies don't seem to be wanting to do this, but since the United States is a little bit worried about China growing in power around the world, and the United States is still the leader of the world, one way that they can compete with China is by doing this before China uses its own philosophy. So use the own philosophy of the Chinese to compete with China by setting up more factories in other countries and making joint ventures in those countries. The question is, how will that affect American workers? That's something else entirely. But if we want to ensure that everyone benefits in the next century, I believe that we should follow this strategy, because by empowering other countries, we also prevent some countries from using their own power against the smaller, weaker places. What do you think? Bye-bye.